Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Hall of Gains. This is Brian, Coach Brian, your National Academy of Sports Medicine certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. This is the channel, the Hall of Gains, where I go through different dieting tips, exercise tips, and more. But also, I really like fiction, and I like analyzing training that is done in fiction and wondering, could that work in real life? Would it work? Is it optimal? Is it viable? Would it kill you? Stuff like that. So in the past, I've done is, would Oster's training work? Would Deku's training work? This week, I'm doing, would Dragon Ball Z's gravity training work in real life? Would it be optimal? And so the short answer is hell no. Gravity training, right? In Dragon Ball, there's the gravity chamber. You go inside of it, increases gravity 10 times. And then it can get further and further. Goku goes to 100. I believe Vegeta puts it the highest ever. It goes to 450. So 450 Gs, 100 Gs, 10 Gs. Yeah, that's not going to work for normal humans. In fact, it's very likely that even lesser degrees of gravity is going to be at all viable for humans to train, for especially average Joes that don't really even work out. So one thing that people don't really think about with the gravity training is it's not just your body getting heavier. It's not just your body being 10 times heavier or whatever. It's your organs. It's your blood. If it's positive vertical gravity, the blood from your brain's going to go down to your feet because it's going to be heavier. And, when people talk about, oh, he went through blah, blah, blah G's in that fighter jet. Well, most of the time, those G's are for very brief periods of time. For example, I'll show this here. If you get slapped in the face with several hundred G's, you're going to be fine. But if just 16 G's are directly on your face for 10 minutes, or not 10 minutes, 1 minute, you're very likely going to die. So there's a huge difference between having gravity on you for very brief, like split seconds, or as continuous periods of time. When we're talking about training, we're usually talking about training periods of at least an hour, if not more. So gravity enhanced for 60 minutes, is that going to work? Yeah, it's just really not. I mean, there are gravity suits that fighter pilots will wear that'll help with it, and then they get trained over and over again. And still, though, they can't really be in gravity for that long, or the higher gravity, higher Gs. So basically, is gravity training really gonna work? Not really. Our organs can't really withstand that. Now let's just talk about also, let's say you can train for a long period of time. For somehow, some way we find it so it doesn't make our blood thicker or heavier, doesn't make our organs heavier. Well, even just 2 Gs, who's gonna be able to train in that? So let's take an average man, 160 pounds. He now weighs 320 pounds in 2G. That is a huge difference. Your bones, your muscles is not ready to go into that. Just think about it. If the average arm is 8 pounds for a 160 pound man, that arm now weighs like 16 pounds. So it's like you're walking around with an 8-pound dumbbell in your hand at all time. Is that going to be hard to curl? No. But just to move around all day or for an entire workout, it's going to be a lot harder. And what about 3 Gs? You now weigh 480 pounds if you're a 160 pound man. Your arm now weighs 24 pounds. So it's like you're walking around with a 15-pound dumbbell in your hands at all times. That's going to be pretty hard. 5 Gs. You now weigh 800 pounds. Your arm now weighs 40 pounds. So it's like you're always walking around with a 32-pound dumbbell. You're not going to really be able to do much. And then finally 10 Gs, which is what Dragon Ball kind of starts with, you weigh 1,600 pounds. You weigh almost a ton. You're fucked. If you are weighing 600 pounds, you're going to break your bones at 10 Gs unless if you build up to it slowly over time. And also just think, that means your arm weighs 80 pounds. So it's like you're always walking around with a 72-pound dumbbell in your hand. It's very likely that most of you guys, if you were in 10G, you wouldn't even be able to go like this, because that would be like basically curling 72 pounds. A lot of you guys probably can't curl 72 pounds right now. Imagine putting your arm over your head, and most of you probably couldn't even flex. It'd be so hard to do that. Your legs would be incredibly heavy. I couldn't do it either. I definitely could do it because if my arms would probably weigh about 120 pounds and 10 G, I'd assume. I don't think, I mean, I definitely know I can't curl 120 pounds in one arm, so I'm not even doing that either. So, if you did even do gravity training, if we found a way where it didn't fuck over our organs, it still would not be effective at those higher levels. What might be effective, and this is stemming from other studies, is that if we started with really low increases, like maybe 1.05 times gravity, where it's a 5% increase, or 1.1 times gravity, where it's a 10% increase, that's enough where the blood shouldn't be affected too much and the organs shouldn't be affected too much, whereas it still will relatively affect you. So if you're 160 pounds and 1.1 G, you'd be 176 pounds, which would be a noticeable difference. In fact, we use weight vests in training a lot, and that's the way to simulate gravity training. It's not a perfect example because it's just up on your upper body. If it was an actual gravity, it'd be everything equally increased by a certain amount of weight. So people will do an 8 to 15% weight body vest where it weighs 8 to 15% of your body weight. And there are shown to be a lot of great benefits with gravity vests. Functional strength, which is what I told you about, that's good for fighting. And then also it's really good for building up speed. There are studies that show that it doesn't help that much, or there are studies that show that it does help, but at the very least it helps. That's what we do know, is that in the studies it at least helps with speed training. And we already know that when it comes to speed and a lot of things, a slight speed advantage is a big difference. Just think of a 40-yard dash time. If you run a 5-second, but you only had a 10% speed increase, you run a 4.5 second. If you're a fan of football, you know that a 4.5 second 40 is a vast difference between a 5-second 40. And so then even a 1% boost would get you from a 4.5 or a 4.9 or a 5 flat to a 4.95, which is a decent difference in speed. In a game of inches, a 4.95 to a 5 is going to be a decent difference. So training with the weight vest, if that's shown to work, maybe gravity training to work as well if you do in just slightly higher increments. Now there is the principle of specificity and the general adaptation syndrome, which means basically our body adapts to things we put it through, and the more specific things we put it through, the better it's going to adapt. So if you start at maybe 1.05 times gravity, move up to 1.1, 1.15, spending several weeks at each different gravity tier and building up, maybe we could get to the higher levels of gravity based on the general adaptation syndrome and the principle of specificity. But still, I don't really see that gravity training ever really being viable, at least not with our level of technology. It's just gonna be probably too hard on our body. Now there are other types of gravity though, like horizontal gravity, where it's like affecting us this way, not affecting us down or up. And humans actually tend to do way better in those types of gravity situations. For example, like I told you that 16 G's on the face for 1 minute will kill you. Well, in this study, and these were with people without any protective equipment, with no training in gravity, and yet 20 G's at less than 10 seconds, they were completely fine. 10 G's at a minute, they were completely fine. And 6 G's for 10 minutes, they were completely fine. I believe those are the right numbers. Yeah, 6 G's for 10 minutes. No harmful effects on any of that. And that's because our body does way better with horizontal gravity than vertical gravity. But also don't know exactly how that would affect training because, well, then again, it wouldn't even matter because in Dragon Ball, we know it's vertical positive gravity because it's like the weight's being applied downward on them. So that's not the gravity we do well with. So if you did gravity training in Dragon Ball, it's very likely you would die, especially if the starting setting is 10 grams, or not 10 grams, 10 times gravity. If you were 160 pounds, it would be like you were 1,600 pounds, your legs would probably snap, you couldn't even lift your arms, your organs would probably begin to sink after extended periods of time, and your blood's gonna be rushing down into your feet. So yeah, that's it's not gonna be good. Not gonna be good for you. And if you think about it, the testing, they did 10 times gravity for a minute and no harmful effects. But they didn't want to go more than a minute. They didn't go several minutes. They didn't go 10. It's because it still would have affected them badly at some point. But imagine vertical, which is much worse, and you do an hour training session at 10 gravity, you're gonna die. You're just not gonna do it. I would die if I did it, because I'd be 2,400 pounds and 10 times gravity. My arms would be about 120 pounds. My body wouldn't be used to that weight. My legs would snap. Everything would break. I would be a fucking rotten corpse very quickly. So gravity training, would it work? Absolutely not. Our body has been, if you think about it, our entire human species has been spent in 1.0 times gravity. We're not really supposed to go into higher levels of gravity. Whereas when it comes to just normal weight training, as humans, we've been lifting things our entire life. We've been moving stuff. We've been working our muscles out, even though it hasn't been weight training, like specifically, our bodies are used to that. Our body is not used to going into higher levels of gravity. It's gonna completely destroy your organs, snap your bones if you get to high enough gravity. But, like I said, maybe if we can start with lower levels of gravity manipulation, it could work. Because if you're 160 pounds and you only start a 5% increase in gravity, you'd only weigh about 8 pounds heavier. Your blood would only weigh a bit heavier and your organs would only be a bit heavier. 10% is the same, but I just don't know how well the adaptation would take with the general adaptation syndrome. So, I mean, I'm not an expert in science, but just went through the gravity science I could find, try and pair that with training. And while the lower levels of gravity would probably work, because if you think about it, just putting on more weight on your body with a weight vest, that'll help with speed. I mean, it's kind of like how it works in Dragon Ball. If you train and you fight in that gravity, if you go back to normal gravity, it's going to be way easier because you're going to be accustomed to higher gravity, so you can move even faster. And now, one thing I will say, and this would be one of the greatest things with gravity training, if we could get it to work, is it could probably kill obesity if we get it to work where we're strong enough to wield things, because the heavier you are, the more calories you burn. So if you were 2 times heavier, you could probably burn calories at a much higher rate, and especially if you were even higher than that. So if we could find a way to where it didn't crush our bones, it didn't increase the weight of our blood or organs, which I don't know how that'd be even scientifically possible, gravity training would be an absolutely phenomenal way to lose fat, because you would burn calories like crazy. That's why people do cardio with weight vests, because at the very least, it is a fact that if you wear a weight vest, you will be heavier, therefore you will burn more calories when you do cardio. So as you know, or you should know, burning calories is how you lose fat. So if you burn a certain amount of calories, but you put a weight vest on, you will burn even more calories, so you can burn even more fat. So if we could just really find a way to use gravity training like that, you could either just do your normal cardio session, but in a way quicker time, or do more cardio, but you lose way more fat. And I could just thinking about it off the top of my head, if you could just manipulate your weight during your training session and just burn 10,000 calories in like a 30-minute cardio session, you could eat 10,000 calories in a day. That could completely revolutionize how the economy in food is, because you could eat 10,000 calories a day and still not put on any fat because you did a 10,000 calorie cardio session. So yeah, just some interesting things to think about. But yeah, gravity training and the way that it's in Dragon Ball, it's not going to work. It's just going to kill you. You wouldn't be able to effectively train because you would need to be in there for a while to get any sort of noticeable training gains, and that's just not going to work. Even at 2 times gravity, it's going to be a bitch. It's going to be an absolute bitch. So yeah, I don't think gravity training is going to work. It's definitely not optimal. Maybe at some point in the future, but yeah, if you guys are thinking if you could go into the Dragon Ball world without ki and go to the gravity chamber, no, it's going to kill you, especially if you start with the 10 Gs. And if you start with 100 Gs, yeah, you're just gonna be crushed to a pulp. But that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know other types of anime training you want me to go over and analyze and see if that's optimal at all. But hope you guys do all have an amazing day. Peace out.